Pax Christi, Nigerian Catholics, as we prepare for the season of Lent, it is important for us to look back at some of the words shared by our fathers in the faith. One of those fathers is, of course, His Eminence Cardinal Robert Sarah, Prefect Emeritus of the Congregation for Divine Worship and Discipline of the Sacraments. And he had these words to share in the United States of America during the administration of Joe Biden. And those words are still very important for us to listen to even today. He basically shared these words that too many Catholics, that is, do not take their faith seriously. And the second is a question: what is your lowercase God? Because at the end of the day, something must be your God. He made these words or these statements at the Catholic Information Center in the United States of America. So take a listen to His Eminence Cardinal Robert Serra's message delivered here, and hopefully we can be able to glean a thing or two. Take a listen.
Please give a warm welcome for Cardinal Serra.
I am really grateful to meet you with you, distinguished guests of the Napa Institute. Mr. Bush, thank you for your invitation, and the Catholic Information Center for your co-sponsorship. My address, the Catholic Church's enduring answer to the practical atheism on our age, reflects well your mission to prepare leaders to bring truth, faith, and value into the modern world through liturgy, information, and community. First, however, I would like to say something about Catholic Church here in the United States. I've had the privilege of traveling to your country many times, and I have found it a place of great importance for the universal church. The United States is part of what is commonly called the West. The West, while not the birthplace of Christianity, is the home of much of what was once called Christendom, and much of what has become modern society, the roots of which are firmly European. The consequences are obvious. Many Catholics hold the same belief as the general population. You have a self-identified Catholic president who is an example of what Cardinal Gregory recently described as cafeteria Catholic. Many of you Catholic public officials are in the same category. Many of your Catholic hospitals and universities are Catholic in name only. The minority status of so many things Catholic here in the United States, which provided an important witness to the fullness of our Catholic faith, has been traded for cultural assimilation. I have visited the United States enough to know that while the uniqueness of the Catholic community had been lost at a macro level, there is much to celebrate about specific aspect of the Catholic community here in the United States. The Catholic Church of the United States is very different from the church in Europe. The faith in Europe is dying, and in some place is dead. The interaction between severely secular governments and the church have not served the faith very well. Practice atheism. As I noticed in a recent address to the Bishop of Cameroon, many Western prelates are paralyzed by the idea of opposing the world. They dream of being loved by the world. They have lost the concern of being a sign of contradiction. Perhaps too much material wealth leads to compromise with the world affairs. Poverty is a guarantee of freedom for God. I believe that the church of our time is experiencing the temptation of atheism, not intellectual atheism, but this subtle and dangerous state of mind, fluid and practical atheism. The latter is dangerous disease, even if its first symptoms seem mild. By practical atheism, I mean a loss of the sense of the gospel and the centrality of Jesus Christ. Scripture becomes a tool for secular purpose rather than the call to conversion. I do not think this is widespread among your bishops and priests here in the United States. Thanks be to God. But it is becoming more common among other regions of the West. Too many do not take the faith seriously and treat it as hindrance to dialogue. St. Paul warned us on this. For the time will come when people will not tolerate sound doctrine, but following their own desire and insatiable curiosity will accumulate teachers and will stop listening to the truth and will be diverted to myths. And yet we know that the faith and scripture and the sacraments in particular give us life. That is why St. Paul also charged us to proclaim the word. Be persistent, whether it is convenient or inconvenient. Convince, reprimand, encourage through all patience and teaching. This is, of course, no pure. There is, of course, no pure atheism. One must put his or her trust in something. So the question is not to whether you believe in God or not, but what do you believe in? What is your lower case, G? What is your God? For many in the secular culture is sex and all its libertarian derivatives. For others, it is positivist understanding of nature, where objective data is the only factor by which decisions should be made. And yet, for others, it is wealth or power or social status or social activism. After this, all of these are corrupt and false idols by which we elevate something other than the one true God in all its majesty, love, and mercy. Just as the Israelite worshipped the golden calf. This is nothing new. Creation, in its many forms, has always competed with the Creator for our loyalty. What is of particular interest is how this sort of practical atheism has seeped into the church. I would like to renew what our three most recent Pope had said about this as a reminder that the church is the prophetic voice for our time, and we must remain vigilant to voices from within that wish to alter her voice to something palatable to secular culture. John Paul II, the great John Paul II, understood the danger of atheism. He lived through the horrors of political systems disconnected from God and all its consequences. While many of the horrors of atheism, communism, and fascism happened within our lifetime, we seem to have forgotten its brutal lessons. Millions, perhaps hundreds of millions of lives were sacrificed for ideological purpose, driven by a loss of the sacred. We all know that family, human life, and the dignity of human person created in image of God and after his likeness are the most sacred for all the living creation. Nevertheless, murder, torture, rape, families torn apart, and so many other horrific sins against the dignity of the person were committed in the name of lies that separate man from God. St. John Paul II understood all of this and leveraged the weapons of faith against the atheism that emanates from communism and the East. On one level, he won that war, but at the other level, the war continues at the global and national level. And even within each of us, as Solzhenitsyn described, is the line separating good and evil, pass not through states, nor between classes, nor between political parties either, but right through every human being, every human heart, and through all human hearts. This is the battle each one of us faces, and even the church experiences it in an eschatological way. The battle is not out there, but here, starting within each one of us.
And so it is that as we begin our Lenten observance, let us not use Scripture for our selfish ends. Let us also be mindful of the presence of unbelief as far as our Christian faith is concerned, because the human heart must believe in something. It depends on what that someone or something is. We'll continue subsequently because there is much more to learn from His Eminence, Cardinal Robert Sarah, and in subsequent videos we'll continue to learn from him even as we enter our Lenten observance. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you soon.